You're live and recording. That's what Crowdcast says.
Okay.
Are you live? Are you recording?
Hold on. Let me just check. Yeah. Alive.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to an earlier Waking Up to Money. We're waking up a little bit earlier. As they say, the early bird catches the pricing worm. Oh gosh, how you doing today, Ben?
I'm doing good. I realized actually I meant to take my sweatshirt off before we started, so I'm actually just going to take my sweatshirt off, which means I am undressing on screen. So you'll have to just talk for 2 seconds while I'm.
You know, sex sells.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, we'll leave that there. Hold on 1 second.
While we're watching Ben get naked, love to hear from you all. Say good morning in the chat. Thank you, Alexa. Alexa. Oh, luckily I don't have Alexa in the house. Hi, Saskia, and hi, Francis. Welcome. And everyone else, please say hello. We'd love to feel connected to all of you listening live right now. You didn't get the memo of the black t-shirt.
Oh shit! I got confused. That's ready for the 10:30 Waking Up to Money slot.
Damn. Oh, that's crap planning on our part. Oh well, we'll just have to carry on with an informed, just winging it approach to doing
Emergent.
This show. Emergent strategies. So a question we have for you actually, while we're sort of getting into the swing of things, for those of you listening, we'd love to know, how does imposter syndrome, because this is what we're talking about today, and we might not have to talk about it if this actually isn't an issue for you all, but does imposter syndrome come into your life when you're thinking about pricing and essentially kind of negotiating price with your clients? And if so, maybe share how. And then the next power up to that is, if you're willing to come and share a bit more of that story with us, please put your hand up, and we'd love to invite you to elaborate, and then we can have a little conversation around that, because we think it's one of the most useful, we believe, and connecting aspects of what we do on these little shows is actually talking to people, and anyone listening then helps them relate to the stuff that we're talking about. But to kick off, Ben, why are we talking about imposter syndrome?
Oh, we're talking about imposter syndrome.
I'm not sure. I'm feeling a bit imposter-like about talking about.
So
imposter
why
syndrome.
are we talking? We're actually talking. I think it's actually Melanie's fault. I don't know if Melanie's with us today, but Melanie was with us last week, and she was kind of asking the question that we sort of touched on a little bit, which was about confidence and I guess a kind of sequence a little bit. Like, should you kind of get more confident and then your prices will follow, or put up your prices and then the confidence follows? And we had a little bit of a conversation around that, and the kind of imposter syndrome came up within it. And so I guess, when we were just reflecting on the conversation that we'd had last week, kind of thinking, this is something which has come up a few times in the chat over the weeks that we've been doing this. And so it kind of felt like, maybe there is something in this. And maybe it would be kind of useful to talk to it a little bit, because actually, when I was reflecting on what Melanie had asked, and I know we sort of spoke about this and you offered some good insight on this as well, Carlos. And I know from my own experience, it was a bit sort of accidentally the other way round. So we put our prices up by a lot, and actually then the confidence kind of followed from that, because, we had more money in the business. Actually, we became easier to buy for all reasons kind of spoken about elsewhere. And so we became easier to buy. Clients kind of looked at us in a kind of more, clients felt more confident because they were associating our higher prices with a kind of more reliable service. And so there was like a whole kind of interconnected set of things, which actually started to kind of shine a light back on us. So we felt more confident having accidentally put our prices up. So kind of that was what sort of came to mind for me when I was reflecting on the question that Melanie had put to us around the sequence of this.
Is that a bit kind of fake it before you make it type idea?
I guess it is a bit fake it before you make it, isn't it? And the other quote, which now I can't remember, which I think we did speak about in the mail out, which was kind of mental note self, don't start saying something you clearly have no idea what it is you're going to say. It's something along the lines of you can't think yourself to a new action, but you can act yourself to a new thought.
New way of thinking.
New way of thinking.
Yeah, yes, I'm glad you wrote that down for me so I could remember.
And so I guess there is that. Now I see some people are putting some helpful things down, which is useful because then we can sort of stop blathering on and talk to useful things that people might want to know.
Exactly. I think Sarah and Saskia are happy to join us. I just wanted to paint a little bit of a picture as well, because one thing that springs up, well, I had a conversation this morning with my wife about this, and there's something around when thinking about not only pricing with a lot of things, but coming with a very clear demand energy. And I'm gonna talk about masculine and feminine energies as much as I'm feel very unqualified and a bit of like an imposter here now talking about it. But there's this idea of like a demand energy, and I'm going to call it a masculine energy of like, okay, I am worth this. This is the price I want to charge. This is it. Take it or leave it. Or just, offering at least a very clear starting point for people. And then there's another energy, and I'm not going to call it feminine energy because it might not be that. But there's this other aspect, maybe the counterpoint to that kind of demand energy of, I'm just grateful for anything I get. It's like, and that feeling of like, oh, am I worth this? Can I, do you tell me how much you're happy to pay? And then I'll just accept, not even negotiate. I'm just going to accept because that's the thing. And so when there's that kind of that energy of like that, you kind of lose a bit of the power. And then because of that powerless feeling for me is that imposter syndrome. Like, actually, what can I charge? What am I worth? And that for me links to when you link your personal worth to the worth of the work that you do. And that's, I think, where I believe you can get really stuck, because any rejection, any shift, or particularly going lower on a price, is suddenly like, oh, what does that mean for my personal value? So that's a bit of a kind of a backstory for me. And I was trying to explain it. We talk about on the course, Ben, is it like it's about isn't about you. It isn't, little bits about you, but a majority isn't really about you. It's about the value that you're going to bring to that person. And I was scrambling for an example because, trying to land it. And I said, oh, I love physics. Well, I used to love physics. I still love physics. I really enjoy physics. I used to teach physics. I used to do tutoring with physics. And so I said, if I was going to ask Lawrence, say I was going to offer to teach him physics, he would probably say, that's not worth anything to me. So why would I want to do that? It's like, I'm not going to pay you to teach me physics. And I'd be like, I love physics. You don't think that's valuable? It's like, and then suddenly like, it just feels really, really difficult to then even talk about that to anyone else. But then I used to tutor physics, and we had this conversation. It's like, if you talk to a parent whose kid is just about to do the GCSE and they're struggling, and actually if they get that GCSE, they might be able to get their A-levels, and they're going to get a degree, and then they get a really good career, and suddenly they're on a path of kind of safety for the rest of their lives. Suddenly being tutored in physics is amazing. It's like a really, valuable thing. And so there's two things there. There was like, A, what outcome does it bring for me? And B, timing. It's like, is it important to me right now? And for someone at that stage, it was really important. So if I suddenly tied my value to how much each of those people or each of those scenarios, or my personal value to each of those scenarios, then on one hand, I'm like, that's a bit rubbish. And on the other hand, it's like, wow, I feel really powerful now. It's like I can really help people. So anyway, that was a bit of a preamble. A little journey in kind of sort of wandering thought space. But what I'd like to do now is maybe let's get into something a bit more down to earth, i.e. someone with a real question and a real challenge that we can maybe talk to. I'm going to invite Sarah up first to see if she can join us on screen. So if I can find Sarah on here. There you are, Sarah. Okay, Sarah, I am going to invite you now. Hopefully you can join us and have a quick chat about unworthiness regards to pricing. And Alexa, she says, what did you say? I've never thought of my ability to price my work. Oh, yes, you can. No, sorry. I'm just wondering. Sarah!
Hey!
Hello!
Happy Tuesday, Wednesday.
Oh my gosh, it doesn't matter what
Happy
day
pricing,
it is.
whatever.
Happy pandemic day. We're still in it. All the same. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us, Sarah.
Thanks.
Please, maybe quickly just share a little bit about yourself. Where are you based and what is it you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm based in Greater Manchester and I work in communications and specifically like social value. So,
cool.
I have quite a range of clients in different sectors, and yeah, so some sports, property, sort of technology, and yeah, so that's sort of my background. And I started coming to these podcasts. Sorry, not podcasts, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, we don't know either.
Yeah, they are typeless.
yeah. A few weeks ago, because one of my contacts, we were talking about money, and I said, "Oh, you know, ooh," and it's a bugbear of mine. I'm not really confident about it. So I can talk about the value I bring. You know, got there. And so mine is a small agency. I've been in house for most of my career, so I've got tons of skills. I've also got quite an interesting skill set. Like I'm quite a good bean in cycling and nicely connected. You know, you can't buy that. You know, you can't buy that everywhere. And also like a really good head on some of the prop tech things as well. So, you know, I'm aware of certain things I bring and my 20-year value of CSR, social value. So I am, you know, confident in that. And I do love the way my brain can fizz when I'm speaking to people. And I recognize that the quick solutions I bring come from those amounts of years of working in the industry as I do as well. So that's all good. But then when I'm putting a proposal together, I'm doing my numbers, and it all just seems too bloody big. And what I've done, so I've done things like, you know, I benchmark myself because I launched a small agency a year ago. I benchmark myself amongst peers, and I'm like, yeah, you're shit hot, Sarah. But the thing is, and of course, as a, you know, perfectionist, it's like, well, you're never going to be perfect. And I hate the word expert, because you show me an expert and I'll just show you a bigger expert. You know, so I don't mind saying I have expertise. That's different, but equally, so I have this relationship with that's sort of bounded around and that as well. And so what I do is every time I've done a proposal, I contact one of two people, and to go through my numbers. And one of them works. She does my job. She's in a different company. She runs a company. And Leanne's really, really helpful. Leanne was the person that's told me to come here. So she's there. She's here on here at the moment. Say hello, Leanne.
Hello, Leanne.
Leanne Grimshaw. But yeah, so I do that. And every time they give me the same feedback, which is like, oh, mate, you know, like, how are you going to live? And it's true. I'm not billing enough, you know. But it's that fear, because I am not my target customer. I think part of it comes that I look at things as if I am, you know, and yeah, so I'm not my target customer. And, you know, and so I think that's one of my mistakes I've been making. And then I like the checks I've been putting into place with Leanne or Kelly. But I've got to get better. And it's that confidence, so I can talk about value. But I'm not there yet. So
So just to clarify, at the core of this, so what I'm hearing is that you're super confident about the work and your abilities and your experience. That stuff, it sounds like you're saying you trust in that.
I do. I mean, but the thing is, there's the but. Like, I don't know everything. I mean, like, so.
Okay. And because of I don't know everything, then is there this doubt around when you're doing proposals? You just need it sense checked somehow. You're asking for Leanne and this other person to make sure that you're putting the right numbers down. Is that the core challenge there?
Yeah, like I think those two aren't so connected in my mind, but those are two issues there.
Cool.
So that I'm under my prices seem high to me. Even though they're not, and I change them for like in different sectors. So, you get paid less in different sectors. So I do flex my prices, and I try not to take on too many small clients because I do have a small business rate, which means I can't take on, because it's the same amount of time and energy from me. So I cap that, and I show it as a discount, never as as a price if I'm doing a reduced rate for a small client.
So, Sarah, what would be a useful piece of feedback that you'd like to get from Ben today? What would be a focus?
I think the setting of prices amongst I don't know actually. That's my question really. How do I get confident talking about my value? Like,
cool. No, that's good, Ben.
Okay. So, firstly, thanks, Sarah, for coming on and sharing this. Really, really appreciate it because I think what you're talking about, for sure, lots of people are struggling with. And it's the interesting thing, isn't it? Because you, of course, do know that your expertise, is extremely valuable, and so you kind of do know that. But it's just kind of how then to kind of make this kind of leap. A few things kind of came to mind as you were talking. I just to kind of clarify, you said kind of early on that you're comfortable talking about your value, and like I guess when you're talking to a prospective client, what do you mean by that? When you're talking about your value, what do you mean by talking about your value?
Well, I always look at what the business is wanting to do, and for me, it's how the business can get to where it wants to go.
To your client. So, and what would be an example of? Is there like a client example where you can share a sort of conversation that you might have had recently, where just to give me a kind of feel of the type of change that a client might be hoping to enjoy?
Yeah, it might be that a client wants to engage with people. So one of my clients has X amount of retail outlets, and it wants to attract more women as well to its outlets. And so I suggested a program of events.
Right.
But then linked to that is there were a lot of nuances to the events as well, not just the producing of them, but the position and the positioning of them. So that would be, but they were online events, and so that's a kind of a simple example. But the topics were very, they had a lot of cut through. The only people in the sector having these kind of conversations. So talking about diversity in this sector was very different. Was very the first to do this. But it's
how big is the client?
Big.
So, like, give me some numbers to understand.
I them on a European basis, but they're global, and so this is it's a relatively small piece of work. But they're a big they're a big client. Big. They're one of the they're very well known.
So they've got retail networks which are selling hundreds of millions of pounds worth of stuff, or millions of pounds worth of stuff, or billions of pounds worth of stuff.
Yeah.
So which one would you go for?
Millions of pounds of the stuff.
Okay. And so how kind of valuable is it to them to attract more women to their retail?
Well, I mean, incredibly, in terms of a purchase price of just one item, that could pay for me that could pay, the value of that, if you want to put that into perspective, they're quite high value products. So somebody might only need one or two, but they're quite high value, and people are quite loyal as well. So once, and that's that's the importance, because it's not about, like, these events don't talk about that company all the time and that stuff. It's more about the sector. So it's
And so do you have a kind of good feeling for why they wanted to solve this problem, why they wanted the more women to come? So there is some sort of commercial thing underlying that. I mean, it's there's not many, absolutely. Women are less represented in the market. So, and it's a market which is very male dominated, but it's not just the women attracting women. It's also, there's other conversations in the sector, current conversations, and it's that bravery which isn't normally had by companies. So it kind of, the reason I was kind of asking, and I kind of know this anyway, the reason I'm asking is the thing that we of course get sort of stuck on is, what am I worth to this? This is what we're all sort of talking about. But of course, in many respects, and I say this in the kindest way, they don't actually care what you're worth. They care what they're worth. And so that, they're doing this because there is an underlying kind of need or problem that they're trying to solve. One of the things which, if you probably had a story, there's the clients are really only buying two things. They're buying good feelings and solutions to problems. And all they want is they want the good feelings and they want the solutions to problems. And like, for an example, some of the good feelings, a lot of your expertise, you're extremely kind of personable, all of these sorts of things. These are a lot of the good feelings that they will buy. You come with an expertise, you come with a sort of authentic kind of understood point of view. That's worth a lot, right? And then there is the whole other thing, which is the problem that they want solving, which is the women being underrepresented in the marketplace, and then the commercial drivers that come with that. The thing to practice and kind of play with is links to one of the second question I have, which is what you were talking about when you're writing a proposal. And is when you write a proposal, is that the first time that you speak about money?
Yeah.
So you don't actually speak about money; you just have write the money into the proposal.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why you don't speak about money when you're talking to the client?
Money's dirty. Yeah, it's almost like embarrassed. So yeah. I mean, I have a small client who. They're really challenged. They are really challenging attitude to money. And every time we talk about something, I like their company a lot. But every time I talk to the founder, he asks everything about in terms of money. And it really puts, so in some ways, I love the client. In other ways, it's just like the least ideal client, because I don't do hourly rates. I mean, I can do, but what's the point? It's not like, because I would take less time than you to do something. So, so I would pay less. I mean, it's not the way to measure something,
Yeah, and so I asked that not because of course there's truth in that, and equally, of course, money isn't dirty, right? The idea we have about money might be, but of course, money isn't. Money is neither clean nor dirty. Money is just money, and the thing is that the more you create sort of opportunity for yourself, and I kind of feels like this will be the kind of practice for you a little bit, the more that you can start to just find ways to talk about money as the client sees it. So like with the retail people, exploring, what is this kind of worth to you? What is it, when you better understand the kind of problem as they see it, because I think you have a good feeling for that anyway, starting to kind of play around with money in relation to that, because then it's not, essentially you want to be talking about money because money is an integral part of running your business. It's important to you. It's important to them. It's an integral part. We can't avoid it. And that's not to say that you just kind of race to some sort of lowest common denominator of, it's dirty. We're talking about hourly rates and it's all about cheap. what the goal is, and what we try and teach essentially is equipping you with some questions so that you are more comfortable having the conversation, so you can get money onto the table earlier, kind of metaphorically, conversationally onto the table earlier, because you want to be talking about it. Because then also you're not putting all the pressure on you. At the moment, you're putting all of the pressure on yourself when it comes to writing a proposal. And actually, you've also got to remember that irrespective of how well your clients know you and the rest of it, buying something is also fraught with risk, especially services. So I know this too, because I had an agency and so have been very much in this kind of space. Buying anything, even if there's a really strong personal connection, is fraught with risk, right? And so there's always a little bit of a voice in the kind of heart mind of your client as well. And it's either louder or quieter, depending on how well they know you. But there's always a little voice which is saying, is this going to work? Is this going to work? Am I going to look good? Am I going to look good? You know, because I've got all those relationships, which I'm also dealing with. And so the more you're able to talk about money and understand this sort of thing from the client's perspective, actually you're getting a lot of the ambiguity out the way. Because part of the thing that happens with money is we either don't mention it, then we just put it in a proposal. But the thing that we've not done there is that the client also has ideas about what it is that they want to spend, what they think that they should spend, how important it is. And if we don't explore that, actually, we're not really helping ourselves do the best work that we can do.
That's a good point. Because it's I'm about to like with the client I was talking about earlier. I'm about to start talking about the next tranche, so it is a good time to have that.
Right. When are you doing that?
I've not got it in the diary. I've got 2 events in the diary with them at the moment. But it's quite yeah. So So I've not got it in the diary. But so when I say I'm about to, I don't have a proposal. I've got some creative thinking to do first.
Yeah, because I think the general principle of you practicing talking about money, but from their perspective, not yours. So that money has been spoken about beforehand. It makes it less about you, more about them. And also then you get to a place where you're talking, because for me also, proposals, I think we get confused actually, and we put too much pressure on ourselves. This is a slightly different conversational point, but we kind of use proposals to sell. Yeah. And of course, a proposal's never fucking persuaded anybody to do anything. Right? All a proposal does is basically a client is looking at it saying, do I see my words in this? Does it reassure me? Does it kind of show me what, get me metaphorically behind the wheel? But a proposal can't sell. And if we're only bringing up money in the proposal, we're actually making it harder for that proposal to work for us.
Yeah. A
proposal in many respects should just sum up the conversation that you have. And a whole big part of what we're trying to teach people is how to have these conversations so that the pressure is not on the proposal. The joy is in the conversation. That's really what we're trying to get people to.
No, and it's so true. I mean, I'm following up a conversation I had 2 weeks ago today. One of the people's been quite ill, so I've left it more longer than I would. And that was an interesting one because it was a client they didn't know what they didn't know. So we had a lovely conversation where they were just like help on so many angles. And so I sent something to start to further the conversation, but I gave some parameters about money, and there could only be parameters to start it. But even that, I felt actually quite comfortable but that decision isn't going to be made on money at all. I mean, I think that they're the right size company for me. I think that I'm a great fit for them in terms of knowledge and what I could, whatever, but it's about the fit for them. And I really feel part of them when I'm thinking about it. Well, like I can see what they need that I don't have that I can bring in, but that I want to bring in to do a good job for them. But that is something that I don't fear then about money. I fear there about fear is a strong word, but you know what I mean. I fear there about other things. That's a good point about the proposal being, I do find it hard with clients that don't have an idea about money. But I like what you've said though. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think just to so I think what we're sort of interested in are kind of questions which help the clients think about money. That's the thing that that's your kind of the kind of role and opportunity. So it's less about proposal, it's more about conversation. and it's questions which help the client think about money.
So for example, have they set aside budget to make that happen?
Well, that's always one question, but of course everybody always says no, I don't know what the budget is, but there is sort of specific things to come back to on that. It's kind of more like you're talking about with the retailer. It's a question that we always kind of asked and kind of talk about in the course, which is just kind of one of many. What's the cost of not doing this?
Yeah.
So with the retailer, what's the cost to you of not doing this piece of work? And so that kind of thing kind of opens up, it kind of gets them thinking and probably sharing what their motivations are. What will not happen if they don't do this? And then that opens the door to you. Okay, so it's a gateway to start talking about the cost of the project for them, not the cost of you, but the cost of the project.
Yeah.
And so these are little portals in to be able to talk to them about what the value is. Because one final thing, when you kind of mentioned being comfortable talking about value, one of the things that we're kind of interested in, value, really all value is the maximum amount that a client or customer is willing to pay at that moment. So value changes all the time. Value on Monday might be different to Tuesday, might be different to Wednesday, might be different to February, April, whatever. It's the maximum a client is willing to pay at that time. And so the more conversational you can be, the better able you are to understand that.
Cool. All right. Okay, thank you.
Anything that you're going to take away specifically from that conversation, Sarah, that you think you can work with?
I like the idea. Well, I like the idea of bringing up money earlier.
Cool. Awesome. Well, looking forward to hearing how that works for you.
Thanks.
And keep in touch.
Will do.
Do.
Let us know how those next conversations go. And always selling. If you want more help, think about the course.
Yeah. Thanks very much. Will do. And I'll look forward to the rest of this morning.
Very
awesome.
Good. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. It was really interesting. I think the thing that sprang up for me with the way Sarah described some of a particular situation was if the customer is uncomfortable talking about money or isn't able to articulate or work well with the idea of money, how can we help? How, as a supplier, can you help? Because I think if they can't talk well about money, then that's like, well, you're kind of hampered when you're talking about pricing. And so the word curiosity sprang to mind. Is like the more Sarah and all of us can be more curious about where someone is with their idea of money and price, and have conversations that slowly not only help us figure out, but help them crystallize their own thinking, then we'll be all more happy. And also potentially, maybe we can even just say, no, sorry, where you're at with that price is not where I'm going to be at with my price.
Yeah, and I think one of the last things that Sarah mentioned there, which I think is really important, is she was saying that price is not important for this kind of. She was referencing a client saying price is likely not to be important for them, and I think that that's actually true way more often than we think it is. Price is actually not really the deciding factor. It's a thing which warrants a lot of attention, but actually, price isn't really the thing which has the kind of big sort of impact. It's one of the things that we look to kind of reassure or to reaffirm ideas that we've already formed about whether I should do this piece of work or not. And which is, again, comes back to the conversational thing.
Nice. Okay. Saskia, I'm going to invite her now to share her thoughts and maybe a question around this topic. She's on her way. In the meantime, for those of you who are watching it tomorrow, Lawrence and I are doing one of our first ever clarity session, and we picked the topic of money. And this is tackling some of the deeper stuff, not necessarily the tactics and strategies that Ben talks about on the course, but some of the relationship aspect of money. So if you're interested in that, click on the link on Crowdcast, and you can find out more about what we're doing there. Saskia, welcome.
Yes, Will.
Hello. Jawohl. Hi. I'm calling in from the Netherlands, and my business is called Jawohl, which in German means yes, absolutely, and in Dutch it means yes, wool. So I recently pivoted my business. I owned as we call it, indie knitting shop, indie yarn shop, which is completely different from any other yarn shop, just to be clear. And I had a needlecraft school combined. I shifted and pivoted to an online presence with a community and a membership, and I'm working on a course. So what I do right now is I help knitters build a more conscious practice. I use different tools and different products to do that. One of the tools is a podcast, and the products, as I said before, the membership. So I'm actually experiencing a lot of imposter syndrome at this moment because obviously this is not my main language, and sometimes it's hard for me to find the right words. So I was thinking about explaining how I feel when it comes to imposter syndrome, but I can't find the word. So you might be able to help me out. So when you descend from a building on a rope, what's that called again?
Abseiling? Falling down?
Yes,
Abseiling.
that's it. Okay, so I did this once, and I have a terrible, I'm afraid of heights. And also I'm heavy. I'm a big woman. So you're at this point where you need to believe that the tools, the stuff is going to keep you safe, right? But you have to let go in order to, and then there's no point where you feel it click unless you're over that. And it's, oh, I even shiver when I think of it now. That's what I feel like in my work in this moment when it comes to pricing, because I'm in a group of people that are used to getting a lot of free information, and I'm doing a new thing. It's completely new. Nobody is selling them ways to be more conscious in their practice. I mean, mindfulness is a thing, yoga is a thing, all these kinds of things, and organic food and veganism, all that kind of thing, but not connected to your hobby of knitting. So I actually want people to pay me money so I can teach them to get more focus and to get better results because they're overwhelmed by all the products and all the patterns. I think this is the best way I've ever explained it. Can I get
brilliant? Well, we've
get
recorded
this on
that.
video?
This is all recorded.
It's all recorded.
Yay. So let me see what I wrote down in terms of, yeah, you were talking about male and female energy. In my case, it's definitely, there's no way around it. It's most of the people that are following me and that are in my community are Dutch females. And Dutch is one thing, we're very frugal. There's a whole thing behind that, but it's probably war. And Dutch people are very careful with money, and the whole Calvinism, let's not get into that. And then females, basically they feel like they don't deserve it. They don't give themselves this kind of thing. And also my colleagues in the business give everything away for free on YouTube. So I basically, my personality and what I loved, what was her name again? Sarah, what she said, the difference between expert and expertise. I basically have to sell this whole thing with my personality and tell them that I really know what I'm talking about. And it's scaring me. Yeah. So I'm not sure if you can work with this, if you have some information for me.
Cool. Go for Ben.
Yeah, well, I guess the first thing I was going to say, thank you for joining us and sharing all of that. And every time I have a conversation with someone from Holland, they say to me, oh, no, it's difficult for me. I'm doing this in my second language. And then they proceed to use vocabulary, which I struggle with.
Oh, really?
So the first thing to say is clearly that is not an issue. But thank you for coming and sharing in your second language. So kind of hugely appreciate that. I mean, I guess there could be a lot to get into with this, because I know what you're obviously Carlos has a huge amount of kind of expertise in this space as well. And another thing which does come up a lot is this thing that people struggle with: everybody else in my area, or my colleagues even, giving away everything for free. So what to kind of sort of do about that? And so I guess there is the thing around pricing courses and pricing for communities, and there's a thing around how you deal with the kind of free versus not free, and all of these things are a little bit on a journey. And I guess one of the things that I'm kind of interested in, I mean, I think that you have a niche is, of course, a really kind of powerful start point. It might be, we look at it and go, well, or your kind of feeling is, but these people don't expect to pay anything. I think because you have a really really clearly defined niche, that is the opportunity for pricing well. And I guess one of the other things to say, which kind of reference a little bit with Sarah previously, is this is not necessarily just about kind of charging a lot for things. It's about charging what something is worth, charging your courses, charging the community for what it's worth. And the thing is that only our customers and our clients can really determine what something is worth. That's why we don't want to spend too much time thinking about what we're doing, because it's kind of dead energy, because actually the judge, the only important voice in the room, are the people who we're doing it for. They're the ones who really decide, and that there is a kind of niche around it. It's not about is knitting mindfully, if I kind of paraphrase incorrectly, excuse me. It's not about is knitting kind of mindfully kind of worth anything. It's like, what do I gain from being part of this group? And it might be that actually that there is all of this free content out there is really helpful to you, because then what do I get? Actually, I learn more by exploring that in a group with other people. I learn more in the community of that. So it's about, the thing I referenced before is about the good feelings and the solutions to problems. That's actually what people are buying. That I'm learning to knit mindfully is not the thing they're buying. They're buying the peace, the ease, the connection, the joy, all of those things which come from community, which come from bringing a mindful awareness to this practice. They're the benefits. They're the outcomes. And that's the point of the value.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And one of the membership is called the Conscious Knitting Club. Mm-hmm. And all the focus was basically on doing things consciously, making the right decisions. But I translated this into some questions in my Instagram account, and like knitters have a stash, like people that have 7 bicycles, or if you like something, you have a lot of it. So when I reframed my wording and was talking about how do you feel about your stash? Do you have mostly negative feelings, mostly positive feelings, and some questions around that. That started to open up my eyes. Maybe I should not focus too much on the consciousness. The consciousness could be like an effect, and we are just going to help you get your stash in its best shape, or super inspiring, or whatever, and just changing the wording might help with that. And I also think I'm basically I have some followers, but they started following me when I had a different business. Mm-hmm. So I need also to venture out and find new people that are more open to this type of product.
Yeah, and just one thing
that has nothing to do with imposter syndrome.
Right, yeah, but it's all kind of part of the whole package of kind of pricing and doing your kind of business well. I think just one thing before Carlos can offer a sort of quick view on the community thing. The thing around stash, I think, is really interesting, because whenever anybody buys anything, they want something to change, basically. And so to your point, it's that they don't want the consciousness, they want something to change. They want a feeling to go from this to go from this, or something else to go from this to go to this. And that helping them see the journey, that transformation that they get by being part of it, of course, is the thing which unlocks the opportunity. And using the idea of the stash sounds really evocative one to me. How you're feeling towards your stash, that's actually kind of points to a lot, doesn't it? A feeling of kind of holding on to a feeling of kind of ease, whatever it might be. And, and I think it's kind of it's articulating that change. Carlos.
Yeah.
So I'm going to break it down into there's marketing and there's pricing. And to a certain level, from what I learned from Ben, pricing is part of marketing because pricing is positioning. It kind of like puts you it brackets you in a certain way in terms of the people that you're going to work with. Following on from what Ben was saying, people buy problems or buy solutions and good feelings. When it comes to community, and I think from my understanding of the type of community you're creating, there's a lot of good feelings that you can create for people. Connection, centeredness, focus, maybe purpose. There's something really tangible. There's a story there, and that's I think really heavily part of the marketing play, and I'll assume going to be part of the decision making when it comes to saying, all right, I want to pay that money. Because what I understand with pricing is like it will depend on that person whether they believe, if I'm lonely, if I'm feeling really kind of scattered, if I'm really finding it difficult to work with all these materials and don't know what to do with them, there's going to be real value in someone helping me do this. And the other word I think might be helpful is understanding what chaos are they in. Because like what Ben was talking about, they want to go from chaos to clarity and peace. Yeah. And as much information as there is on the internet, there is a lot of information on the internet. Where do I start? What do I do next? That is really important for someone as a problem to solve when you really want to get somewhere. And so there's a price for that. Like Ben was saying, is like at what cost of not doing this and not having someone help me through those stages in a certain level? What do I lose? A year, 2 years, 3 years, my sanity, whatever it is. It is, it's interesting there. There is a monetary value there, despite what cultural aspects there might be around spending money. To an individual, I think there's a value. There's something also, I think we talk about this on the course, how you anchor it. What are you comparing it to? What else would you pay for in order to get the same outcome? And what can you pinpoint based on the people you want to work with that they would be framing it against, so that you can at least have a much more confident approach to it, rather than what does it mean to me? Is like, actually, I could pay for a life coach. How much do they cost? What would I spend on that? And so it starts to get, I think it's part of this journey, and this again, it is work that we try and scaffold for you in the course, is exploring those different bits of information that the customer is exposed to help you then narrow down to the number that works for you. And then you tell the story about that number. I don't know if that helps for you.
Yeah, it really does. And I think there's a lot of value and power in having the conversation. And like Ben said before, from the perspective of the customer, I'm going to really have to think about that, because then they're just going to pay me five euros. But no,
I think it's what Carlos is saying. It's how you frame that. Because if you did just say to them, what's it worth? They're like, I don't know. Yeah, €1. But it's then how you kind of frame that so that it doesn't. Yes, that's not where it is.
Yeah. This is super helpful. Thank you guys so much. Lots to think about.
Cool.
Knit your worries away, Andrea said, which I really like.
Eat and knit your fibers.
Boom. Well, please get back to us and let us know how that goes. If you try something out or have a conversation with some of your followers, we'd love to hear what stories they have about the journey they want to go on and what they're looking for.
Yes. I will.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. So much. You take care. Bye-bye. Cool. Pricing community is a fucking hard thing.
Yeah.
Really hard.
Yeah.
And so Saskia,
I know a few of the people that I've been speaking to about the upcoming course are in that space. They are trying to kind of work out how to do that. So if you are also in the kind of pricing for community space, do kind of register, because we are trying to put this group together for the next course. And it would be good that there are a few of you who are kind of wrestling with that, as there are also people who are selling services. But this is the pricing community is something which is also coming up a fair bit. So do register, and it'd be good to talk further.
Yeah, there's a marketing aspect to that. There's a strategy aspect to that, and then there's actually, all right, I hit the page. Am I going to press the button? One of the things that we talk about in the course is being easier to buy. And I think all the work that we would like to help you with is making sure that you are as easy to buy as possible. The journey to that page or to the decision, there's work there in terms of marketing. But if you've got people that are coming to you, how do you make it really simple? Say, yep, that's the thing I need from you. That's what I'm gonna commit to. Cool. Ooh, that was a big one.
That was a big one. Our timekeeping is excellent as ever.
Half an hour on the dot.
Half an hour. It's a half an hour. Then we're done. People can get back to their day. Oh, look, 54 minutes and 17 seconds.
Oh, dear. Well, I hope everyone you managed to get something from Sarah and Saskia's stories. Anything a theme there you could sum up? Ben, do you identify anything you could say?
I mean, I guess the thing that does keep coming back to this, and I know I kind of sort of I'm boring myself by how many times that I sort of say this. So I hope it's less boring for others. Is just this shift in both the conversations that we've had. It's just the reminder: this isn't about you. This is about the people who are buying your stuff, and so the more we can spend time in their shoes, not our shoes, the better. And that's really the kind of opportunity for everyone, really. Out of your shoes, into their shoes. That's the place that kind of pricing originates. That's the price. That's the place where value is defined. Yeah.
And it's interesting when I think about this as well. Is like it's an appreciation, particularly when I'm thinking of what Sarah was talking about, one of her customers. It's appreciation of what your customers think about money. Sarah was talking about a customer who's there's a certain attitude to money. Saskia was talking about a cultural attitude to money. And without that appreciation, it can be very hard. Well, it can be more challenging to talk about pricing. And that I think also comes from your appreciation of money. Because once we realize, actually, I've got all of these ideas around money that isn't just about how much I'm going to pay for something. It starts to open up all possibility in terms of how you work with it. And this is one of the things we want to like fold into the course. It's challenging to do it, particularly in the 5-day course, but it's stuff that we'd like to try and introduce a bit more. And tomorrow, Lawrence and I are going to play around with this idea of actually investigating this relationship to money. It isn't something you can fix straight away. It's a longer journey. But I think the more that you can combine the tactics and the strategies with the stories underpinning the decisions we make, I think the more powerful you will be in the way that you price, but also I think the more curious and compassionate you start to get with this stuff, rather than it like hard nosed. What's the biggest profits I can make?
Yeah, and I think that is a good place to end. I think because the curiosity and compassion to it. Actually, this pricing, selling, all of these things, it doesn't need to be hard, complicated, messy, uncomfortable. It should be from a place of curiosity, and it can be from a place of compassion. And actually, the closer we get to that, the more opportunity will kind of spring out of these conversations.
Awesome. Loving where this is getting into. We started off, I think, last year quite tactical and strategic. I think now we're trying to fold in more of this, actually, the human aspect of this. So, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you for your input and your suggestions for Saskia in particular, it seems. Looking forward to seeing you again next week. Assume the same time. No.
Oh, yeah. But we can have a new time. I don't know. It's what time? Who knows?
I quite like the idea of 9:30. I'm going to have to find someone to run Action Cafe at the beginning of the day so I can then jump in. But yeah, well, let's play with that. But let's commit to 9:30 next week because
we're awake at 9:30.
We'll be waking, and by May it will be at 6:30 in the morning.
Then just all night. It'll be an all-night session.
All those 24 hour talking about money. Now that's an event. Okay, awesome. Nice one, Ben. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
See you, everyone.
Bye.